Welcome to another episode of Radical Change Leadership. I'm your host, Vonda Page, and today we're diving into a topic that is essential to every true leader: healing. Now, I know what you're probably thinking is healing isn't what we typically associate with leadership, right? We often think of leaders as those at the top of the pyramid, people of power, prestige, people of influence. But in reality, leadership starts with one thing. It starts with the courage to heal and grow within. In this episode, we're going to explore why leadership is not about external validation. It's about the internal work you do to become your best, most authentic self. True leadership is rooted in confidence, commitment, and conviction to be your most empathetic, curious, and authentic self, no matter the challenges you face. It's a journey that requires self-awareness and healing. Your first job as a leader. I'm also going to share insights from my own experience working with people, especially women who've carried years and years of unprocessed trauma. You'll hear how trauma, distractions, and derailment show up in our leadership journeys, and why self-healing is not just a luxury, it's a responsibility. Whether you're a leader in parent role, a teacher, as a business leader, or anyone making decisions that impact others, your first step, the first job, your first obligation is to heal. And let's be honest, it's not easy. It's not about just getting by or making promises that you can't keep. In 2025, over here, we're focusing on results, not resolutions. It's time to be intentional, innovate, and to create the impact you were meant to have. This is the year we achieve radical change. So let's dive in. So I want to really say welcome, and a very abundant new year, and a happy 2025. And I hope it is fulfilled with everything that you want for yourself. And I want what you want for yourself to be about healing. And that's where we're going to kick off this conversation about why healing is your first job as a leader. You know, people misunderstand leadership and they think like leadership is about power, it's about status, it's about the influence you have on other people. But true leadership, it really starts with yourself. It starts with having self-awareness, and that self-awareness has to be at a deep level. Like, you have to know who you are. And dare I say, you have to love who you are and you have to trust who you are. And I'll get into it a little bit more. But healing and emotional intelligence, right? Healing is absolutely the foundation for leaders, especially if you have to make decisions for others. So when we think about leaders, right, we think, okay, the president of the United States, the chancellor of Germany, the prime minister of Canada, whoever, right? You might think the mayor of your town, the police chief of your town. You might think your boss, if you're a kid, or you grew up in a home with a so-called strong father figure. Maybe you think of your dad as the leader. Maybe it's, a religious figure at your church, or it's the Pope or something like that. We look at it as like it's power and it's status. But if you think about some of the people, right, that have the most power in the world now or previously, those people had a lot of problems. And it was obvious that they didn't have any self-awareness. I mean, the stories that I've heard about three of our elderly presidents, I'll say it like that, in terms of how they did not have faculties, they did not have control over, certain aspects of their bodily functions. The things I've heard about the leaders that we've been looking up to and thinking that they in charge and got everything going on. These people didn't have any self-awareness because nobody bothered to tell them, hey, you're having these problems, right? And if somebody can't talk to you about who you are and tell you, hey, you having these problems, and be honest with you, then your self-awareness is really, really low. If people can't be honest with you, if everybody around you, you have so much power that everybody around you is scared to tell you the answer no, because if so, you're going to fire them, or you're going to harm them, or you're going to blackmail them, or, oh, you make everybody around you sign a non-disclosure agreement. I want you to think about the level of, truth that is really around you if you are in such tight control over everyone that everybody is walking around eggshells around you. If everybody around you, you never hear any bad news. You never hear anything that you don't like. I'm going to tell you, people are afraid of you. And your level of self-awareness is something that would really, 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 really be helpful to dive into. So ask yourself, are you in any relationships where you know people are intimidated by you? Are you in any relationships where you're intimidated by others? What do you think other people think about you? How do you think you intimidate other people? What is the control you have over other people's lives, livelihoods, health, money, physical, social, societal, or other aspects of people's lives, right? And then the next piece is around emotional intelligence, right? Do you have emotional regulation? Do you have emotional stability? Do you have emotional awareness? Can you recognize emotions in others? And the question is, right, if you've done no work to heal from your own adverse childhood experiences, you've done no work to deep dive into who you are as a person so that you can show up in a better way, then you're not on the path of true leadership. Because true leadership starts with healing. It moves through self-awareness and emotional intelligence. And it's the foundation if you have to make decisions for other people. I started following Dr. Joel Furman, and I really like him. And he introduced this concept of the nutritarian diet. And it's really just focused on maximum nutrients. And, he calls it moderate, low caloric consumption in the context of micronutrient excellence. So it's basically, eat the food that's best for you, which is plants, beans, nuts, seeds, mushrooms, and onions, and berries, right? And enjoy those foods, but, stop eating shit that's killing you. And, as I, have gone through these different iterations of my health journey, especially, since 2020, the big C year, I have just been putting more and more intentional focus on what I'm doing. And over that time, it's been 4 years, right? And I've lost 50 pounds in 4 years. So, right, that's cool. 12 and a half pounds and kept it off, right? And I have another, maybe 12 pounds to lose. But I am focused on the self-awareness and the healing required in healing my relationship with food and my body, right? My mom first called me fat at 5 years old. So wonder it took until I was 50 to say, okay, now I need to really, put some intentional focus on healing that part of me, right? The part of me that was rejected and abandoned by my mom and teased and but now she's the one buying the food. I'm not sneaking food at 5. I'm being fed food. But luckily for me, right, that the universe, at the same time that I had all these adverse childhood experiences, I also had all these amazing healing and healthy experiences. My babysitter had a garden in front of her yard, in front of her house. There was another garden across the street. There was a garden down at the end of the street, and then there was another one across the street there. And then around the corner, there was another one. This lady, my babysitter, she tended 5 gardens, and she helped other people with their gardens because back in the 70s, so many people had gardens in their backyard, and all you went to the store for was meat and maybe salt and, maybe bread. But everything else was baked. You baked your own biscuits. You baked your own cornbread. You baked your own bread, pancakes, waffles. You only went to the store to get milk and meat. I remember. And then there would be like a couple pieces of candy, and if it was 2-3 pennies left, you can buy yourself 2 pieces of penny candy, okay, for going to the store. But the collard greens and the tomatoes and the cucumber, you was pulling that stuff up out the yard. But then in the winter, it was a little hard to come by. You pull them greens and stuff out the freezer. But I grew up eating those fresh fruits and vegetables, so I craved them and always wanted them. So now, years later, it's like, this is how I always ate and wanted to eat anyway. It wasn't until I was home, and because my mom, we had so much money, my mom could just be lazy and buy all that boxed food and canned food and frozen meals. And so I ate that stuff from like 10 until I moved out at 22. And when I moved out at 22, I had my own apartment. Oh, I was eating beans and vegetables, rice, maybe some pasta, potatoes. But I was eating real food, like literally oatmeal, what you call them, the real oats, not steel cut, the other ones. Old-fashioned oats, old-fashioned grits, old-fashioned polenta. Like making real food and eating vegetables. And then when I married my first husband, he was a chef, and he insisted that I eat all these foods that I didn't want to eat. Thank goodness I only stayed in that relationship 4 years, just long enough to get pregnant and have a daughter, though. And then, several failed relationships after, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to be better by myself. And I have been. And in 2020, when, everybody got locked inside, I said, now's the time. I read all kinds of books. I read Health at Every Size. I read Intuitive Eating. I read the keto stuff. I read the carnivore stuff. I was like, well, I can't do that because I don't really like meat like that anyway. I mean, I'm black, so I grew up eating chicken and pork. But once I found out how they processed all that stuff, I really didn't want to. And for the last, I would say, 15 years, I've been basically a vegetarian who maybe eats fish 4 times a year and, chicken twice a year, something like that. But now, it'll probably be even less frequent because I've learned through Dr. Furman and others how to utilize flax seeds and chia seeds and different things in different ways so that I get those other nutrients that I would get by not eating fish. But our fish here in America has too much stuff in it. And again, it's about self-awareness, right? So as I'm deciding, like, the things that I'm going to talk about, the things that I'm going to teach, that true leadership, right? In order for me to do that, it has to have a lot of self-awareness. So I need to do that healing work around like what's been, holding me back, right? Like literally I've probably lost and gained, like at my heaviest, I remember I was like 232 pounds. So like now I'm like 140 or 138 or something like that. But like, so I only need to lose like 12 or 13 pounds or whatever. But I remember being so much heavier and just being like, well, I could still do everything I want, so I'm not worried about it. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes, so I'm not going to worry about it because I wasn't looking at everything in a holistic context. I wasn't looking at it from the context of, insulin resistance and if you're fat, you unhealthy, period. Then when COVID happened and I started reading all these books, and this like fat is healthy movement, I'm like, this is not scientific. There's no way this is right. I'm going to eat what feels good for me. And what feels good for me is to eat when I am hungry. And literally my favorite food, I asked my daughter if she know what my favorite food is. And she was like, salad. I said, how long has salad been my favorite food? She's like, my whole life. She's like, every time we go out to dinner, you eat salad. When we come home, you make salad. You love salad. I love salad. It's my favorite thing. And what I do now is I do a blend of 80-20 raw cooked. So I'm having my raw lettuce, of course, cruciferous. I might cook a little bit of it, but I'm literally having my green vegetables raw. But if I have maybe a nightshade or a squash or something, I'm going to cook that. Definitely going to cook mushrooms, and I'm going to cook beans. My seeds and nuts, I'm going to blend into a dressing with a little bit of herbs and, garlic and maybe some more onion. I'll use my stems of my kale and get busy, right? And knowing that, like, this feels good for me. And I think about, like, how many people have teased me about the way I eat. And I'm like, okay, well, when I'm still tooling around at 100 and you dropping dead at 65 with cancer, diabetes, and, stroke, look, don't be mad at me. Like, I'm not pushing this on you. This is just how I eat. And what that goes to, right, is also the emotional intelligence, right, that people have. Now, I of course never have said that to a person who's made fun of me for eating healthy. I'm always just like, well, you're weird, like that's projection, and when I started learning and listening to Dr. Furman, and he was talking about how people are like, oh my God, I would rather die than to eat fruits and vegetables. Okay, then I guess you will, but I would rather eat fruits and vegetables because they taste amazing. Amazing. And it's pomegranate season, and I can't wait to go to the market. Or if my daughter asks me if I need anything, hey, grab me 2 pomegranates because I can't wait to eat pomegranates on top of my big salad. I can't wait. But again, right, healing. I'm healing myself through food. I'm healing myself through cooking. I'm healing myself through, my relationships with food and myself based on how people treated me. I remember cooking broccoli as a kid or Brussels sprouts, and everybody in the house like screaming at me, telling me my food stinks, my food stinks. Oh, because fried food smells so good. Okay, it's something wrong with that. You using Crisco, and then they made butter flavored Crisco, and then they started making cakes with that butter flavored Crisco. I knew that stuff was not going to be good. I would rather hurt my arm whipping up cake from scratch. I'd rather hurt my arm whipping up cornbread with a daggone wooden spoon from scratch and, in a whisk, and waiting for the butter to melt over the stove. Like, we didn't have microwaves to be popping stuff in the microwave. You boiled that water. You double boiled your butter or whatever. Or you just sat the butter out and then you put it in the pan and then you poured it in. Like, you did work. And so what I realized is that even though I always knew, how to eat right and what was right, I used to bend under the pressure of people because who wants to be treated cruelly and mean? And the thing is, no one does. But what happens is when leaders aren't healed, the way we make decisions for other people is cruel. It's mean, right? My husband, my first husband, so he was a chef. So he wanted to eat duck and quail and this pork and this and that. I didn't want to eat that. Why do I have to do that? Because he's not a healed person. He has to force his dietary choices on me. And because, I'm trying to keep peace in the house, I'm trying to maintain a relationship, I have to just do what he says. And because patriarchy works that women don't have power in the home, right? Then, it's either you do what your husband tells you or then you deal with the consequences. That is what it looks like when healing doesn't take place. When healing doesn't take place, we make all kinds of decisions for ourselves and for other people that may not be in our best interest. Now, luckily for me, that I've been single and on my own and making my own choices much longer than I have been in relationships with other people. So from 0 to 10, I had really good experiences. From 10 to 22, it was my growing pains and time I learned a lot and explored and did a lot. And then from, 23 to 33, I was in a lot of bad relationships with narcissistic, abusive, toxic, selfish people, right? And then when I finally, at the age of 38, was like, no, I'm good. I am good. I'm good with being alone. I am good with, moving out of the space of, I think I want to have a real relationship. Maybe I'll go out on some little Tinder hookups if necessary. But now I'm good. I'm focusing on me, but I'm focusing on taking care of my daughter and being the best version of me for her. I can't do that if I'm dealing with somebody's bullshit, because most people out here have not worked on their own healing. Most people out here have not put a focus into self-development. Most people out here have so little self-awareness. They have so little emotional intelligence that is not worth my time. And healing has to be non-negotiable. I made it non-negotiable. Even when it comes to women, I only have a few women friends, and that's how I want it. And no matter what kind of work I do with my clients, no matter what kind of work I do consulting, I don't want a lot of friends, because I don't want to be around people who are not focused on their own healing. Because if you're not focused on your own healing, you're not growing, and you're staying the same, and you're doing the same shit day after day, week after week, year after year. And I can see it. And I'm not trying to say that, I'm some evolutionary dynamo, but what I do know is that every day I do something different. I do something to grow and learn and heal. I know that I affirm myself. I know that I do something great for myself every day, something concrete, whether it's take a bath, whether it's ride a bike, whether it is, do some Pilates for a while, whether it is working on stretching, whether it is, organizing something and making it beautiful. Do something every day that's going to lead me towards a better result for myself, right? Do something that's difficult. Something that I've always hated since it was invented was email. But what do? Every day now, I force myself to read emails. I would go months without reading email. Just skim it real quick and only take I got to pay this bill and pay a bill. That's it. Pretty much ignore it, because it was a cause of stress and anxiety for me for a whole lot of reasons. Healing was necessary. I had to really sit down and dig into, why is email stressful? Because I have a lot of workplace trauma. A lot of workplace trauma, right? A lot of ways email was used against me. A lot of ways that, email triggers things because of, whatever trauma or wound was associated with it. Those words are the same, by the way, trauma and wound. But healing has to be non-negotiable. Think about what kind of leader, right? A person that, if you have a lot of people working for you or with you, you cannot ignore your emails, right? So healing has to be important, because what does unprocessed trauma look like if you can't open your email? It looks like falling behind on stuff. It looks like missing deadlines, right? So another thing is, right, what is the distraction and the external pressure that derail it? Well, it's easy to ignore email if you are on social media, because you could say, oh, hit me up on LinkedIn, or hit me up on Facebook, or, oh, hit me up, I'm on Instagram, right? And you have these external pressure that can derail whatever you're trying to do, period. And then you have the distraction of the computer, the distraction of the phone, the distraction of the laptop, because we're always in front of it, right? It's changing everything about us. It's changing our vision. It's changing our brain chemistry. It's changing dopamine. It's changing everything. I think about this person that I worked with for about 16 months or so. And they had very low self-confidence. Although they were over 6 foot tall, uh, you know, societal, handsome, well-spoken, Caucasian male. This person had a lot of trauma in their upbringing, including physical abuse, verbal abuse. And they were on their second marriage that wasn't going well. They was about to get married again and be a stepfather to teenagers, Meanwhile, had a shitty relationship with the kids that was in their 20s. And there's the other set of young kids that he just had, and he's like trying to get it figured out because, everybody tells him he's a nice guy. And, so we started talking about what does nice mean? And he's like, well, nice means doing everything perfectly. And we started getting into, him making mistakes and people saying, well, that's not nice, or that's mean, or that's this, or that's that as a kid. And we really started getting into like what this trauma was from the standpoint of the household and outside of the household that he never told his parents about, right? Outside of the household, he had these coaches and these teachers that were degrading and talking shit about his family and making him feel bad. And so I had to, help this person explore, just through sitting with being uncomfortable thinking and talking about it, right? And just like processing this in your body. And then we moved into writing down, what would you say if you had to write a letter to these people? Then we sat down to what was the impact of all this on you? Then we started talking about how do you think you show up now? And what questions would you be afraid to ask people in your life? What would you be afraid to ask your first wife? What would you be afraid to ask any of your kids? What would you be afraid to ask your second wife? And what about your current fiance? And we really got into it. And I mean, we recognize, first of all, that this is not no one-time thing, right? Like this was a year and 4 months, right? And we still keep in touch. Like, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. I was thinking about this. And then I say, well, ask yourself these questions and journal this, right? We keep in touch, and then, maybe we talk, every 3 months for an hour or every 3 months for 90 minutes to talk about, okay, how do you make sure that you claim your power in this moment? Because, a lot of us don't understand that we're not reclaiming anything because our power was already stripped. We didn't have it because our first bully was likely our parents or was some teacher, right? Or it was a religious figure or the Boy Scouts or a coach. Somebody that yelled at us and bullied us and something that they didn't give us that they should have given us, or something that they did to us that they should not have done. Period. End of story. So we got to address the pain that's in there. And for men, it's hard. And for women, it's hard. And for children, it's hard because we are not taught. We're not given permission to heal. We're not given permission to develop self-compassion and resilience because it wasn't given to our parents. And our parents don't know how to give it to us. So this is why journaling is so important. You can journal on your phone. You can journal on paper. You can just talk to yourself out loud. If you don't want stuff to pop up on your Google, turn your phone off when you do it. But talk to yourself out loud and ask yourself questions. Write letters to the people who harmed you and call them a son of a bitch. Call them a motherfucker. Call them an asshole. Call them a douchebag. Call them a pervert. Call them a hypocrite. Write letters to all the people who did horrible shit to you. And know what? Write letters to the people who loved you. Write letters to the people who took care of you. Write love letters to the people who nurtured you, the people who taught you things, right? Claim your power. You can address this pain in any way. And let me tell you, journaling is great. The other thing is being mindful, right? Looking up mindful practices, but just picking something. My one practice is I do one thing at a damn time. If you ever have a conversation with me and I'm doing something else, I'm not listening. Listen, if I'm doing something else, the other thing is what's getting done. If I'm with you, then I'm listening to you. I'm looking at you. Or if we're on the phone, I'm listening to you. I'm not doing nothing else. My eyes might be looking out the window, but I'm not looking at the birds or, the trees. I'm just like, but I'm focusing on you. I'm locked in. I'm locked in. Some of my best conversations I have with my eyes closed. I'll just close my eyes, which is why I love doing a podcast, because I don't have to like be giving eye contact and giving eye attention, because I really want to focus on what I'm communicating and being mindful. It is fantastic. You can start with mindful breathing. Take a deep breath in for 4 counts through your nose. Hold it for 4. And then exhale slowly for 4. And you can practice doing 7 of those. You can practice doing 8 of those. You can practice doing 10 of those. You can practice doing 3 of those, right? In your healing practices. But the other thing I'm going to tell you is, I'm going to tell you get some coaching. I'm going to tell you get coaching. There's a lot of therapeutic methods out there. I think most of them you can do on your own when you're really ready to do the work. Once you develop some compassion and emotional resilience, once you have some self-awareness, I feel like you can do a lot of the work on your own. You can do a lot of journaling. But I think coaches are better, because coaches can tell it like it is. A coach can say, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm coaching you based on my experience, based on my training. I've done some amazing training recently with Ramani Durvasala, Gabor Mate, like I said, Joel Furman, Jason Fung. Like, I've just done some amazing learning about nutrition and narcissism and addiction and healing. And therapists have to give you to buy the book and tell you go back to work, and they have to tell you to exercise, and they have to tell you, figure out how to cope with it. They want to talk to you about medicine. I'm going to talk to you about claim personal power. I'm going to talk to you about health. I'm going to talk to you about mindfulness. I'm going to talk to you about eating healthy, getting sleep, and drinking as little alcohol as possible. I'm going to talk to you about eating as little junk food as possible. I'm going to talk to you about cutting back. Don't drink soda, period. Cut them 2 things out, soda and alcohol. Yeah, you're going to feel shitty for 3 days, maybe 5 days, maybe 7 days. But on the 8th day, you're going to feel amazing and be like, yes, I'm so glad. Brush your damn teeth and floss more. Take care of your oral health. It's going to make food taste better when you get off of all that crap you're eating. I'm going to tell you to try to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep. Shit, get 10 if you can. I'm going to tell you to, drink herbal teas if possible. Drink herbs when you can. And eat as much green vegetables and fruit as possible, fresh. I'm going to tell you to stop eating at junk food restaurants. I'm going to tell you to stop buying crap in bags and boxes and cans, because it's not better for you. It might be a little bit faster, but if you pull together as a family, you can claim your power over your health. That's what a coach is going to tell you. A therapist is going to tell you, maybe practice deep breathing, maybe do some yoga. They're going to talk to you and tell you you're not crazy. And you're going to be like, okay, good. But then they're going to tell you go back to work, take your medicine. Sometimes it takes time to kick in, get some exercise. They're not going to tell you to leave them toxic relationships if you can. A lot of times you can't because of finances. You can't just up and quit a job. But you know what? I can coach you and talk to you about your resume. Let's get this resume right. Let's do it. Do you know how to use AI to focus on making a better resume? Let me show you. That's what a coach can do. All right. The next thing I want to say real quick is that there is a role for community, because healing doesn't happen in isolation. That's why you want to find support. That's why you want to get into some sort of group, right? Where it could be a virtual group, and it don't have to be, you really know the people, even if it's a little YouTube community, right? But get in a little group just so you feel like you have people that can show you you're not alone. Look at mentorship and coaching programs as really important parts of healing, because healing doesn't have to be something that's inaccessible and unaffordable. And in fact, right, that's what we do here at Radical Change Leadership. Go to radicalchangeleadership.org and you can learn all about the work that we do. But healing, right, needs to be accessible and affordable if we want to see people get well. If we want to see people make those personal transformations, right? Healing comes from having the confidence to do it. It comes from having the clarity to do it. And it comes from empathy. And when you can heal, it's going to make all the difference in the way you make decisions, because you're going to make decisions from a sense of caring. You're going to make decisions from a sense of empathy, from a sense of authenticity. How would you want to be treated? Would you want to have to work until Christmas Eve, 6 p.m.? For what? Come on. Why do people have to work on Christmas Eve? What, you really going to do that? You're not working. So why can't everybody just have off? I mean, come on. Just make people be miserable for what? Right? Like, you really going to make people come to the office that have more than a 15-minute commute for what? They're going to have to spend more money on gas, more money on food, more money on childcare, more money on, crap to come to the office than they could do at staying home. So when you heal and you think about how you would want to be treated, you're going to make different decisions. And the ripple effect is you have a healthier organization. You definitely going to have healthier family, and you're going to have healthier community. Right? My guy that was, getting ready to get married to his third wife, he decided to spend some time alone. They see each other, a couple times a month. And she's spending time on her time alone. And they're focusing on their own relationships with themselves and their kids. I told them when the kids move out, man, they're going to be ready. They're going to be ready because they got a lot of work to do. Because they neglected their kids emotionally for, up until now. And you can't be there for somebody else emotionally if you don't even know who you are. If you can't even be for yourself emotionally. And that's something that they're learning. But they're learning that in the context of being single, in the context of being alone. And then they, text each other, hey, oh my gosh, I just realized blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, wow, me too. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, hope you're doing well. Keep the romance out of it. No flirting. Just like, hey, I'm growing and learning. Hey, me too. And maybe they chit chat every now and then. That's somebody that's making progress. And it's impacting how they both show up at work, because they both have high level, high stress, high important jobs at big ass companies that do important shit out here. And so they're growing, they're healing, and they're showing up better for, their organization, their family, and their community. The one person is working and doing something with their kid that they never did before. Like really doing it. Like I used to do everything for my kid. I did the Girl Scout cookies. I did the soccer mom. I was the one bringing the oranges and the plums cut up. I was the one with the water. Like, y'all know, Gatorade is nothing but garbage. It's garbage. I'm not giving my kid Gatorade. Sorry. I did go get vitamin waters for a little while. I got hooked on that for a minute because they had vitamin C in it. And then I was like, but they had all that other shit in there. So then I was like, no, you get oranges and you get water, period. Mineral water, but you get oranges. And that was the snack. That was the snack. If you need a snack because you feel thirsty and you're like, oh my goodness, okay, you can boom, slice that orange. They suck that orange, spit that peel out, boom. And call it a day and get back in there, even if it was 100 degrees outside. Nowadays, parents are giving their kids donuts. I saw it in 2024. A parent gave the kids donuts. And I was like, and not one kid looked a normal weight. All the kids was chubby. And I was like, And the kids ate them damn donuts. And the parents let them eat it. My daughter would have been like, I'll eat that donut tomorrow. But I don't want it now. Let's go get some real food. Let's go get real food. And, again, that's aligning yourself to being authentic, who you are as a healed person, right? And that starts early, right? That starts early. I have another client that been, 50 pounds overweight for the last 30 years. Been on every pill and everything. They lost 20 pounds one time, 10 pounds one time. but they've been 50 to 60 pounds overweight. They lose 2-3 pounds and it comes right back. In 8 months, they lost the 50 pounds. Because I told them, first of all, you have to decide the relationship that you want with food. What is important to you? Right? What is important to you? What are you willing to give up? Right? Are you willing to give up and feel like shit for 3 days? Then give up the soda. You could do it. Don't eat in your car. Don't eat food out of bags. Just stop. Do you want help cooking? What will you eat? You don't want to become a vegan? Okay. Do you eat chicken? Okay. Do you eat pork? Okay. I can show you how to make some simple things. I showed them how to make some simple things that they can cook in a crock pot. Some simple things they can cook in one pot. Like literally, how do you cook rice? You rinse it off until it's clear. Same thing with your beans, your peas, all grains. You rinse them until they look clear. Then you boil them. And then you put the lid on and you turn the fire down low. And you let it simmer until the water boils out. You see the holes. You fluff it, put the lid back on, take it off. It should be good. Literally, I taught my clients how to cook quinoa, how to cook rice, how to cook beans, right? And how to steam some quick vegetables. And boom, 8 months, 50 pounds that they couldn't lose in 20-something years because they were willing to listen. And they were willing to decide, hey, I want to be healthy, right? And now, like, they working on getting fit, getting their body, muscular, right? So, like, that wasn't those two things in 2024 or 3, right? Depending on how you want to take it. And I could give many more examples of, people who cut down on habitual drinking, and now they only drink social. Okay. So that means you go out once a month and you decide you have 1 glass of wine. Fine. That's the relationship you want with alcohol. I tell people, you can choose a relationship, but you have to have a relationship over yourself first. So when it comes to 25, that's why it's about radical change. Results over resolution. Focus on the result. What do you want? I want to have an amazing relationship with food, alcohol, my body, and all the people in my life. I want to have mindfulness down pat. I want to have my knowledge, love, and trust of self even deeper. All of those things are going to happen, and you can fulfill, right, your purpose and make an impact instead of making promises. What success looks like, man, when you prioritize, you're going to feel amazing. When I think about 2024, like the relationship that I have with my daughter that grew in 2024, I didn't think I was going to have it for at least the 5 years preceding that. I thought, okay, maybe, when she gets, late 20s, early 30s, we'll get close like we used to be. Nope. We're back on track. And how did I do that? I focused on my own healing, my own emotional regulation, my own getting in touch with my own pain. Why? So that I could focus on me and show up as a better mom. Yeah, my daughter's a young adult, but I'm still a mom, and I'm still a role model, and I'm still showing up in a way that I want to show up in a way that's the best version of me. So success looks like you could go from having a daughter that wasn't speaking to you 3 years ago to somebody that, calls you up while they're having lunch, calls you up on their way home from work and says, hey, do you need anything? Hey, what's going on? That gets you the most thoughtful Christmas gifts ever. And used to always do that, but still does it, right? Like, just because she's amazing like that, but because I worked on my own growth, my own healing. And what I want to say is that when you have results-driven leadership, when you really focus on making an impact, right? The impact is I want to have a great relationship with my daughter, because the better relationship I have with her, the more things we can talk about, the more I can help her grow and develop and learn and heal and grow into being the best version of her. The more she sees I'm just trying to work on being the best version of me, then all she gonna work on is being the best version of her, because it ain't nothing else for her to work on. I'm not walking around telling her what to do. She asked me some questions, I'm happy to answer. Like, She sees how I eat. She knows I'm a vegan. She knows I'm not gonna eat dairy literally ever again. I had my last run in. I had my last run in with dairy in 2024, and I'm still struggling. I had my last run in with corn and soy, and I'm still struggling. So I already know, right? How my body needs to eat and what it is. And my daughter watches that and she picks up and she learns. And I guarantee, without any pressure from me, she will be a vegan in the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah, she might still eat dairy now and then, but she will be a vegan that eats dairy maybe every once in a while. So success looks like what you want it to look like. Success looks like the best version of you. And the best version of you is who you decide it's going to be. Like, mental, physical, social, spiritual, financial, right? Intellectual. It's who you want it to be. And you do get to choose it. I think a lot of times we feel powerless, right? About a lot of stuff. We feel powerless and we're not. And we're not powerless because we have the abilities, the capabilities, and the responsibility to manage radical change, to lead radical change, to be radical change leaders. So thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all hanging out. We are going to be getting into more topics just like this, even deeper, even more detailed, because healing impacts leadership decisions and results. And we're going to not mess around in 2025. We're not going to mess around. We are focusing on results over resolutions. And what I want y'all to do is just realize that leadership is not external influence only. It's from within. The work is not easy, but the results are worth it. So, hey, take the first step, y'all. Download Radical Change Leadership app and sign up for your free 15-minute coaching consultation. And I'll see you soon.